Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the Champions League. It is the 5-year anniversary of the channel, the 300th video on the channel, and I have a big announcement that loads of you have been asking for and waiting for years. As you know, I post members-only tips and accumulators and stuff like that on YouTube memberships, but that is not available worldwide, and a few of you suggested that I create a Patreon page. Well, I'm excited to say that it is here for the same price of the YouTube memberships, $9.99 a month. That's it. That's just one tenner on a 2-to-1 double or something like that, and you've got your money's back for an entire month. And you get all of the exclusive members tips, accumulators, all the posts you see on my community tab about accumulators that we won and everything like that. You will get all of that here, and I'm pretty certain this is worldwide, or at the very least more accessible to a lot of you that can't access YouTube membership. So it'll be the first link in the description. Join it. There will not be a single thing posted on YouTube memberships that I won't post here as well for you to enjoy, because I've wanted to find a way to make it accessible to you all, and a few of you mentioned this and I thought it was a great idea. So check out the Patreon in the description, and let's get on with the video. And before we do get on, I do have to shout out some more new members of the YouTube memberships as well. That's Lizeth Martinez, Tim's Bricks and Cards, Tavison A1, Charlie Walking Shore, Aaron Kumar, and Glenn Sotelo. They have joined the channel since the last Premier League predictions video, in which we got 2 perfect scores actually, which was pretty cool. Arsenal 1-0 Man United, Man City 3-1 West Ham, and we haven't yet seen the Forest or Burnley game. Of course, that's being played tonight, but today it's all about the Champions League. So whether you want to join the YouTube members, or if it's easier for you, join the Patreon, you can click all the links in the description. There is so much value to be had here. There's a lot of really great tips. I've got a free tip for each and every one of these games, so we're going to get straight in, kicking it off with AC Milan up against Newcastle. Obviously, AC Milan got absolutely demolished by Inter Milan in Serie A over the weekend, 5-1. Newcastle managing through a Wilson penalty to beat Brentford 1-0. I think this is going to be a close game, and I am slightly going to favour AC Milan with the home form. AC Milan, they're playing quite well this season, even though they did just get battered. And Newcastle, it's not as bad as it potentially looks. They've not got many points in the Premier League this season, but if you look at the teams that they've played Liverpool, they've played City, they've played Brentford, they've played Brighton, they've played all these good teams, and they didn't get any points really against these teams last season either. It's really where they played the lower teams and they just ruthlessly won that they got the points. So I don't think Newcastle have anything particularly to worry about. However, I do think this is just going to go AC Milan's way. Given that, though, I'm not entirely sure on the result in terms of backing it in the market, so my tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.57. After this, it is Young Boys up against RB Leipzig, and I think there's going to be goals. I think Leipzig are going to win. I'm going to go 3-1. There are 2 tips here, both very similar value. I've got either over 2.5 goals at 1.57 or RB Leipzig to win. I think it's at 1.66 right now, so if you want to back RB Leipzig, go for it. They just beat Augsburg at the weekend 3-0. Young Boys are obviously brilliant in Switzerland. They win all the time. That's why they're in the Champions League. But in Europe, it is just difficult. And I think RB Leipzig are the team that will look to progress and qualify through this group alongside Manchester City, of course. So I think Young Boys are going to struggle here against Leipzig. They'll be looking toward the games against Red Star Belgrade to see who can finish in third. I think Leipzig will win this one. After this, Feyenoord up against Celtic. I've got a lot of time for Feyenoord. One thing about the members only tips and accumulators, stuff like that, I do a lot of alternative league bets as well. I have the Alt League 5-fold, which looks into leagues like Feyenoord's league and other stuff like that, even the Scottish Premier League, for example. So I know a little bit more about these teams than I see the average UCL predictor in that sense. And I actually do think Feyenoord are going to win. I rate Celtic, but Feyenoord they're just good. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win. My tip is going to be over 2.5 goals at 1.66. I think that's a given, honestly. However it happens, I think that's a given. I reckon at home, Celtic, I could see them just like weirdly sneak a 1-0 win, even against Feyenoord. But I think at home, free-flowing, there's going to be goals. I think Feyenoord are going to win. After this, Lazio, Atletico Madrid. Difficult one to predict, honestly. So I am actually just going to go for a 1-1 draw. I don't need to put the dash in there. Yeah, got it. I will do that. Thank you, Super Brute. Cheers for that. 1-1, Lazio and Atletico Madrid. You could look at both teams to score as a tip. It'd probably be about 1.8, 1.9 with these two teams, I reckon. I think it could be quite low scoring. I've written down here Atletico Madrid double chance because I think Lazio are the slight... I don't know if they're the slight favourites, but I think Atletico Madrid are a slightly better team. So it's a difficult one. If you're going to stay away from one, I would stay away from this one. After this, PSG up against Borussia Dortmund. PSG, a couple shaky results lately. Dortmund, genuinely, you never know what you're going to get. I'm going to go 3-1. It's the Mbappe at home in the Champions League effect. I feel like that could be the difference. So 3-1 to PSG. My tip, I've actually gone PSG and both teams to score at 3. I know they've been a bit underwhelming in the Champions League in the sense that they've never won it, when you could argue they've had much better teams than they currently do now. But when they get knocked out of the Champions League, for example, it's never against someone like even like Dortmund or Young Boys or even Benfica. No disrespect to them. It's never someone like that. They get eliminated by like City and Real Madrid and teams like that. You know what I mean? So I think PSG at home are going to beat Borussia Dortmund. I think Dortmund will score, so I'm going PSG and both teams to score at the odds of 3. After this, Manchester City up against Red Star Belgrade. I know City's slightly weaker without De Bruyne, of course, and they might do a little bit of pep roulette in terms of swapping in and out who they start. I don't think it matters. I'm going to go for a 4-0 win to Manchester City. My tip is Man City to win in over 3.5 goals at 1.66. That allows for a Belgrade goal. I think City score a lot. Saying that, it might be better off just staying away from this game on the basis that a 1-0 win is good enough for Man City, and they're so much better than Red Star Belgrade that they might rotate and actually focus on the Premier League upcoming fixtures as opposed to the Champions League group stages, in particular ones like Red Star Belgrade and Young Boys at home where they should win with their second team. So again, I'd exercise caution with that, potentially stay away from it entirely. I'm going to go 4-0 to Manchester City. After this one, Barcelona up against Antwerp. Antwerp doing a great job to be in the competition. It's a step too far in my opinion. 3-0 to Barcelona. My tip is Barcelona win to 0 at 2. In the last couple years, Barcelona have been one of the best, if not the best team in the world at keeping clean sheets and keeping goals out of their own net. So I'm going to go for the same in a game where they should win very comfortably. Regardless of what team they play, it's going to be a comfortable win for Barcelona. So Barcelona win to 0 at evens. I think it's very good value, so I'm going for it there. After that, a very difficult game to predict. It's Shaktar up against Porto. Obviously, Shaktar can't play at their home stadium. I think that will play into it a little bit. I think Porto are slightly better anyway as well. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Porto win, but my tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.66. I think they're both capable. I think they will both score. So that's my tip there. 1.66, not too bad. And we now move on to the Wednesday fixtures. First up, we have Galatasaray up against FC Copenhagen. I think this is going to be a Galatasaray win. I'm going to go for a 2-1. And my tip is Galatasaray to win at 1.6. They should win. They're better than Copenhagen. It's at home. They're going to win. Real Madrid up against Union Berlin. Similarly, the differential is just too big. It's at home for Real Madrid. 2-0. My tip for this game is going to be Real Madrid to win and under 3.5 goals at 2.05. I don't think Union Berlin is a team where Real Madrid beat them 4-0 or anything like that. I think 2-0, good enough. 1-0 halftime, 2-0 full-time, that sort of thing. Even 0-0 halftime, 2-0 full-time. I think it's going to be low scoring. Real Madrid will win, get the job done. Good enough. After this, Bayern Munich up against Manchester United. There's no one in the world that thinks Manchester United are actually going to win this game. There might be United fans that say they could win this game. While statistically, and they could win it, they're not going to win it. Bayern Munich are going to win this game. Had an absolute thriller of a game against Bayer Leverkusen at the weekend. They thought they'd won it in the, well, first of all, they thought they'd won it in the 85th or something minute, 2-1 up, and then Bayer Leverkusen scoring in the 94th minute, and then they thought they won it again, scoring in the 97th, 98th minute, but it was ruled out, I believe, for offside. So Bayern Munich, they'll be smelling blood. Manchester United looking pretty poor, absolutely taken apart by Brighton at Old Trafford. This is at the Allianz Arena, and I think Harry Kane, it's destiny. He's going to get on the score sheet. Bayern Munich are going to humble Manchester United just that little bit more. After this, Sevilla up against Lens. I think Sevilla would be my favourites to win this game, honestly, and I do think Sevilla could win. Part of me wants to change my prediction. I'm going to change my prediction. I am. 2-1 Sevilla. I predicted Sevilla to win at the weekend, and they did win by 1 goal, so I'm going to change it. I originally had 1-1 between Sevilla and Lens. However, my tip allows for the 1-1 draw and the 2-1 Sevilla win. My tip being both teams to score at 1.8. I think this game comes at a good time for Sevilla, not so much for Lens. I'm going to go for that Sevilla home win. I've just changed my mind. After this, Arsenal up against PSV. Bearing in mind, Arsenal do have a very, very important fixture against Tottenham on the Sunday. I don't think that'll matter. It's a very young Arsenal squad. They've got, over the last couple of years, they've been building and adding with transfers to essentially have a bit more of a backbone, a bit more of a bench, a team that can kind of be chopped and changed and not affect the output of Arsenal so drastically. A couple of years ago, you would say they still had a fantastic first 11, but when it comes to changing and substituting in players, the standard dropped off significantly. Nowadays, it's definitely much less like that. They can chop and change some players, rest some players, and it won't affect them as much. So given that, although it's important that they have a very strong team, if not the strongest team on Sunday, I think they'll have enough to win their first Champions League fixture back after many years. I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Arsenal, and my tip is Arsenal to win and both teams to score at 2.75 because I fail to see how PSV don't score, honestly. I think they're a brilliant team. That was another tip I included in my members only. I believe it was PSV to win and over 2.5 goals. They ended up winning 4-0. So again, I do think PSV are good. I think just Arsenal are a little bit better. They're at home and they love to win at home. After this one, it's Braga up against Napoli. This one is a really difficult one to predict. I think this is going to be quite low scoring. I think I'm going to go 1-0 Napoli. Napoli had a little bit of a blip at the weekend, drawing 2-2. But I do think they are better than Braga for one. They are the favourites. So my tip is going to be Napoli to win at 1.85. I wasn't as confident on under 2.5 as I was with a Napoli win. I could see a very respectable draw, but this is one I'm not as certain on. I've had to pick a scoreline. I've gone for a 1-0. After this, Real Sociedad against Inter Milan. I know Inter Milan are absolutely flying at the moment. They're scoring loads of goals, but I think it's going to be low scoring again. I'm going to go 1-0 Inter Milan. I do also think Inter Milan to win is a brilliant tip at 2.4. Sociedad are a hard team to play at home, and this is why the value is the way it is. But I think Inter Milan to win at odds of 2.4 is something I could not look past. After this, it's Benfica up against FC Salzburg. I'm going home form. I think that's very important, particularly for the Portuguese teams. They play much better at home. Going to go for Benfica to win. My tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.8. Salzburg, one of the teams that seem to produce the best up-and-coming talents in Europe. Obviously, Erling Haaland being one of them, playing for Salzburg a few years ago. He sort of made his headline debuts on the main stage in the Champions League with Salzburg, and I think they're an exciting team to watch. I think they can score, so both teams will score, but I am shading Benfica in a home win. So just a reminder, here are my picks. You can pause the video, have a look at them, but that is going to do it for this video. So if you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe down below so you don't miss any videos. We've got obviously Premier League predictions coming for a few days. Be sure to either click the membership down below, or if they don't work for you or you'd rather be on Patreon, click the link to join my Patreon, and that should be accessible to you. That is going to do it from me, and I'll see you in the next video very soon.